One person's trash is another person's MP3 player. Since I stopped using Spotify about a year ago, I've been looking and hunting for the best MP3 player. Now, I've used traditional new MP3 players such as high-res MP3 players. I've used even a CD player that has also an SD card, which I can listen to my music library wherever I'm going. And I've tried different MP3 players here and there, but none of them really suited my needs until I decided to go through my old phone collection. Most of us probably have some old devices laying around or have someone in our family that does. I think the best MP3 player is something that you could already have or that already exists in the world. One of the best MP3 players I've been using recently is actually an old BlackBerry device, the BlackBerry Torch to be exact. This MP3 player is perfect. It's a touchscreen and it has a physical keyboard. What I really like about using an old phone is that there are more accessibility settings. The problem with newer MP3 players, for me at least, is that the screens are way too small and I can't customize the text. I can't make the text larger, I can't change the font style, and that really stops me from making the device usable. As somebody who is quite visually impaired, I need to have a certain level of customization and accessibility features. And older cell phones actually meet this, especially BlackBerry. They have quite an array of customization settings that allow me to make this device perfectly accessible for my needs. Also, bonus, it has a physical keyboard. So since I have difficulties with touchscreen interfaces, having physical keys and having that memory of using BlackBerry devices really comes in handy, especially when making notes. Now, I primarily use this device as an MP3 player. If you're lucky enough to live in a place that still uses 2G, you could use this as a phone. But most people nowadays won't be using this device as a phone, but I think it still has a lot of useful and usable features in 2025. Besides being a great MP3 player, it also has additional features such as a calculator, a notes app, and you can even take pictures and videos, which is not very common in most MP3 players. There's even a few games that you can play. So from a digital minimalist perspective, this device is actually quite fun to use, especially when it's not connected to any data or the internet. I find just carrying around an older device is just fun. It's a conversation piece, and honestly, it's a pleasure to use. It's also very functional as a device that you can keep going. For example, you can remove the battery and replace it. If you're a super ultra power user, you can carry multiple batteries if you wish, and the device will just keep going. Besides being a touchscreen device with a QWERTY keyboard, it also has some physical buttons on the home screen, as well as around the device. It has a play and mute button, which for music is great, and since it has a great speaker, you can listen to your music as you're walking around your house without needing headphones. Speaking of headphones, you have the option. You can use a headphone jack, or you can use your wireless headphones because it is Bluetooth capable. Again, you can use a lot of older phones in this way, and I think using an older phone is just more fun, and there are more functionalities that we don't think about. Sure, you can use a music streaming app on your smartphone, but honestly, I like just going out of the house without my phone and having an MP3 player that I can see or go through my music more easily, make playlists. Something like this to have on hand is super functional and fun. Since starting this challenge in January of trying to buy less and use what I already have, this helps me be a bit more creative in the devices that I have and seeing the other use cases for these devices. Honestly, this BlackBerry Torch has been sitting in my drawer for over a year now, but honestly, I haven't been using it much as a phone, and I wanted to keep using it, but I didn't know what to use it for. Since I'm not buying any new MP3 players, I decided to give it a go, stick in my SD card, and it's been fantastic. Honestly, the sound quality is great. Maybe it's not the highest resolution of sound, but it's more than enough for me. It's definitely better than my low-end MP3 players. And again, the major drawback of these modern and especially cheap MP3 players is that the screen is just garbage. Not only can I not see, it's super reflective, it's scratch prone, and it's just not fun to use. There's no touch interface on a lot of these devices, and it just feels cheap. Whereas if you go back to an older cell phone, you can get a premium model for quite cheap on eBay nowadays. I highly recommend digging through the drawer of old devices, asking family or friends, or even going to a local thrift or charity shop and finding an old device to use as an MP3 player. It's just a little bit more fun, and you're helping the environment. Thank you so much for watching, and see you soon.